But here, on the very rim of known space, justice is a long way away.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie Podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Spaz.
You might be eaten by a Gru.
Your co-host, Julie.
Hello from the sunny north.
Oh, nice. Your co-host, Thorsten.
I don't have any clue what I'm talking about.
your co-host, Jacob.
You must gather your party before venturing forth.
And your co-host, David.
Yes, making sure. We're talking about RPGs, like RPG 7's rocket propelled grenades, right?
No.
That's
Parts of hard enemy.
It's not. That's not what that stands for. That's first things first.
I know.
I had to go out and get my
grenades.
James armor.
Role-playing grenades. Yeah, sure. Let's go there.
Role-playing guns.
Role-playing guns.
Hold a pin, throw yourself at the enemy.
Oh, gee, what did I do?
I bet you could do something like that in... there was a great role-playing game system. We're not going to talk tabletop role-playing games in this. We're talking computer games.
As much as I would like to.
Right. We said we'd stick with computer games, but there was a pen and paper one called Big Eyes, Small Mouth, where you could do just about frickin' anything. And I bet you could make yourself a living grenade in that game.
You will get your chance, Jacob. I promise.
We will. I could totally see us doing tabletop RPGs in another episode. But today we're going to talk about computer RPGs. So Thorsten, this was your idea for this topic, and I'm just curious, what brought this front of mind for you? What are you playing something, or did you see something? What happened?
Yeah, I lately started again playing Starcrawlers.
Oh,
Such a good game.
That just brought the topic into my mind.
Starcrawlers, if you aren't aware, is like a classic dungeon crawl, but they're all fantasy except for this one, you know.
There are more.
I mean, 99% of them are fantasy. I mean, there might have been one or two that were.
Most of them are definitely in the fantasy genre, but this one is very much run-based, procedural generated maps.
It's so
that
good.
Are effectively dungeons. Yeah, effectively dungeons.
Yeah, it's so good. It is quite excellent. So we're going to have a free-flowing discussion, and you guys can ask questions too if you want in the chat, or my co-hosts. I don't have to be the only one asking questions, but I wanted to at least start at the beginning. I have a couple questions in mind, at least to get the conversation going. And I wanted to start with, what was your first electronic RPG? And you can take a moment to think about it, because I'll tell you mine. I'm streaming it right now. It's called Starflight from 1986, Binary Systems, Electronic Arts. I'd never played anything resembling a role-playing game before this one. And when I first started playing, I'm like, what are these things? What are these stats things? I don't understand this, because I was
numbers.
I was a youngin'. But thankfully that game is simple enough that it didn't take me long to glom onto it.
That's the way of putting it.
Yeah, and it's still probably one of my favorite RPGs ever. Oh my God, it's almost 40 years, right? Yeah, shit. Excuse my language. Yeah, it's been almost 40 years. Oh, Lord. Since Starflight came out. But that was the first time I'd ever done, because up until that, I'd only been playing console and arcade games. There's no role playing in arcade games, and there's no role playing in. Well, I mean, some later arcade games, didn't they have some role playing? There was a Dungeons and Dragons game, I think, that had a little bit of role playing.
No, it was more of a beat 'em up with some choices you could make.
Yeah,
the choices.
You know the one I'm talking about. It's the side-scrolling one. Yeah.
Chronicles of Mistara.
Yeah, that one was great. And that had slight RPG elements, but that was really it. And that was a later arcade game too. In the late 70s and early to mid 80s, there wasn't really much that wasn't on like in the arcade or on consoles that had an RPG element to it at all, like role playing. RPG element. What am I saying?
Now, to be fair, there were console ports of games like the Ultima series that made it onto the NES.
Okay, that's fair.
I know that because I had them.
That's fair.
But yeah, for the most part, they were cut down versions of those games.
Yeah, like what I'm talking about is like late 70s, early to mid 80s. There weren't a lot of arcade or console. Like I had all the Ataris and everything, and there really weren't any like role playing style games. I know that changed with the Nintendo.
Not on the 2600, but the Atari 800 did have RPGs, and I know this.
Okay,
I've had quite a few of them that were on there. So,
well, that's good.
And I was going to talk about them.
Well, Spaz, let's go with you then. What do you think your first CRPG was?
Okay, this is going to be an interesting pick, but it is actually qualifying.
Sure.
Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah, no, the original Castle Wolfenstein.
Oh, the original.
And its sequel, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Both of those were on the Atari 800. I've played both of them. And not only was it stealth action, but there were definitely RPG elements. You had inventory management. You had to use disguises in order to get past the German guards. And if you could not get past the German guards, if you didn't fool them because there was someone of a higher rank who would recognize you, see through your costume, your disguise, they would identify you, call out the alarm, and then everybody would go aggro on you. So you actually did have some role-playing elements in that. The time-based element was there too. Everything took ticks to do. So things like you could try to pick a lock on a chest and see what was in it, and it would take time in which guards could be patrolling around. They might spot you. You could also shoot the lock in order to reduce the amount of time, but that causes noise, which also means that that would reduce the time, but it might also alert nearby guards. And then you could actually break the lock and not be able to open it, so that wasted all of your time.
These came out in the mid to late 80s. Am I remembering that correctly?
No, early. 81 was when...
Holy garbage.
81 was when Castle Wolfenstein came out. Return to Castle Wolfenstein was, I believe, 83, if I recall correctly.
That is so advanced for the early 80s.
Wow. But stealth action RPG, to me, that's the first that you can really think of.
I mean, that makes sense.
Fascinating.
Yeah, wow. I didn't know it was that early. I mean, I'd only learned about those original games when I played, Wolfenstein 3D. I'm like, wait, this isn't the first Wolfenstein game? Oh.
Nope. For most people, that was their the introduction was the other 3D Wolfenstein games. So there has been no real return to form in that series, at least not that I know of.
Well, the first-person shooters were so freaking popular.
They were great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not denigrating them in any way.
Right.
But I mean, one of the reasons I made the reference to Zork is because you might be eaten by a grue. That was also considered a CRPG.
Yeah, that's true. That's totally true. So Julie, what would you say was your first electronic role-playing game?
Well, the thing is, despite the fact that I'm over 60, you're not going to expect this, because basically growing up, there was no money for that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I got to be an adult there was money for it. And so once I got to the point where I could afford it, all the money was going to things like grad school and whatnot. And so my concern was not being kicked out of the army and whatnot. So I didn't really start playing games, role-playing games anyway, until like late 80s or early 90s. Before that, I played like Harpoon, but which is not exactly an RPG, is it? I think the first RPG that I probably played was Final Fantasy VII.
Ah.
Okay.
I would I would surmise that was, sorry to interrupt. I would surmise that was a lot of people's first entry into the RPG realm. Honestly, it was such a big deal.
I went out and I had some extra money, and Uncle Sam said, "Okay, I'll tell you what. You want a second graduate degree? We'll pay for it." And I said, "Woo-hoo!" And after I got done, they said, "Okay, there's some money left over because you were in an MOS that was in short supply. We'll give you the money back." And so I said, "Oh, I know what I'm doing." And out came the PlayStation without a number after it. And that's when I started getting into, mostly it was like side scrollers and things like that. But then I said, ooh, role-playing games. And so I think the first two for me were like Final Fantasy and Ultima Online.
Wow, that's kind of all downhill from there, isn't it? No, I'm kidding. But
the Ultima series has been around a long time, though.
Yeah,
even before Ultima Online. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like the first Ultima game, what came out? 83, I think.
Yeah,
roughly?
83.
Yeah. So it's a very old series. Well, I don't want to use the word old. Very long-standing series. Classic. Yes. Venerated. Classic.
Final Fantasy VII was so good that they've remastered it more than once.
Oh God, yeah.
It is available on just about everything now.
And apparently the remasters aren't bad, actually.
Well, that's good.
No, they're pretty good. You can even play the Final Fantasy games on your phone, on your Switch, on just about everything.
Yeah, I will say that Square Enix is milking FF7 for what it's worth, but it is worth a lot.
Well,
the funny thing about that is, despite the messages of Final Fantasy VII, they started pushing NFTs, which is kind of utterly ironic.
Yeah, right, they did.
So what is the message? I've never played Final Fantasy VII.
Oh,
you never played 7. So
take it away, Smash.
The big environmental message: protect the planet. The big corporation that's in charge of everything is destroying the planet. And so the idea that Square Enix, being the company that it is, trying to use Final Fantasy VII's name to sell NFTs. They are the evil corporation that in 7
in this context.
In this context, exactly.
The irony of this.
Oh God, damn it!
It will be funny were it not completely depressing.
Exactly.
I just hope it fails like all these other attempts to do NFTs by gaming companies. Oh, it did? Oh, good.
Oh, past tense it did. Good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No, I'm very glad to hear that.
In case the audience doesn't know, we're not big fans of NFTs.
No, it's just the opposite. In fact,
we like. Now, here's the thing: we like Square Enix. We don't like what they've done with the NFT thing. There's a big difference between liking the games of a company and not liking what they did with
the business practices.
Yeah, it's sometimes. I mean, separating the art from the artist is tough when there are multiple artists involved, like dozens and not hundreds of people. Like they can't all be bad, right? You know, there gotta be some good people in there. So it's
mainly management. So there's that.
Oh, Pool of Radiance, Rupert.
It's management
That's
pushing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's and the shareholders. NFTs are the new thing.
It's a whole thing.
Anyway, we're not gonna diverge into NFTs because
you play Final Fantasy VII, don't get real attached to the other characters.
Well, let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Yeah, that was sad.
Those are good choices, though. Thorsten, what about you? What was your first electronic RPG?
That was Bard's Tale on the C64.
Oh, Bard's Tale. I never played it, but I've heard nothing but good things about it.
You know what? I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
I really didn't like it. It wasn't my thing. It was a high fantasy scenario that pulled me a bit off, and a lot of other things. I didn't get what the game wanted from me, and it wasn't a great experience. Let's put it that way. I played it a few hours and then left it aside.
Well, I'm glad.
I have to ask: did you try the remake of The Bard's Tale that came out during the PS2 era?
Nope. I know it exists, but I never tried it.
Okay, one thing to note about that one is that they got Carrie Elways to voice the Bard in that, and he's wonderful as the Bard.
Is that also the one?
Very
is that the one on Steam? Is that the same thing? The one
I don't know if it's the one on Steam, but I know that I got it on the PS2, so I don't know whether or not it is the same one. I have to check.
Probably I should take a look at it.
I thought
because I mean it's nearly 40 years by now.
Been a bit.
Yeah. But what got me really going was my second RPG I've ever played, and that was Battletech: The Crescent Hawk's Inception.
Ooh.
And
That's the same link.
I've linked the wrong game.
Doing it live.
I link it later. But then I was actually old enough to understand what was going on, and it was probably I got into BattleTech a year before, but I didn't know that any games did exist at this time.
My condolences.
Yeah.
But I've been getting into BattleTech recently at request of a friend, and it's an experience. And when I'm saying it's an experience, most people should know should know the consequences.
I mean, back then it was great. If you look at the system today, it looks a bit antiquated. Let's put it that way. But
we can have if we ever do a freaking War Games episode, which I petition we should.
I'm for it.
Yes.
Then I'll bring it up.
Yeah. We talk then in another episode about that. But still, I was old enough to understand what was going on, and that brought me really into RPGs, and I played a lot of role-playing games after that, computer playing games especially.
Yeah, I never actually played that one. I heard it was really good though.
Oh, it was very good.
I keep meaning to give it a shot, but I just never have gotten around to it.
I keep forgetting that BattleTech had RPGs as a concept.
Weren't they the first BattleTech games? Electronic games.
Yes.
That and MechWarrior by Dynamics.
Yeah, but the MechWarrior was after.
Yeah, so there were, I think...
About a year later, I mean...
There was Crescent Hawk's Inception, and then Crescent Hawk's Revenge, and then MechWarrior.
Right. And I actually have a disc I got on eBay with all three of those. I just have not installed it. Yeah. I was very happy to find that. But I just haven't gotten around to actually installing them yet. But I should. I totally should. I hear people I know have played these BattleTech games have nothing but good things to say about them. Honestly.
Yes, even the recent MechWarrior games, in my opinion, are fairly good. MechWarrior 5 included, but that's a different genre, technically speaking.
Yeah.
Yup.
And I still have nothing but good things to say about the Harebrained Schemes BattleTech.
Yep.
Because
I have some bad things to say.
It made some changes. It did make some changes from the tabletop, but that's fine. They were adapting it to be different, and they were making those changes intentionally to be different.
True, though they also did the thing that way too many BattleTech games do, of forgetting this is supposed to be a war game and increasing the difficulty by just chucking more shit at you.
That's fair, but it's also because they tried with having more than 4 mechs on your team, and it broke the AI.
That's not surprising. The AI barely functions as is.
So the way that they handled it, I think, makes sense given the limitations of the time. And like Torsten said, I lived in that universe from the mid '80s with the original release of Battle Droids, which was the first title for BattleTech, all the way up
shut
until
down by
about
LucasArts.
2000. Yeah.
Well, I got into
But all
it
the way up to
recently,
2000.
so I shall carry on that very messed up torch that requires a 2d6 roll to stay upright.
Aw.
Oh, I apparently own the new Bard's Tale on GOG. I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to install that and give it a shot. It's nice.
The joys of modern electronic purchasing. Oh, I own that. Why?
Yes.
Actually,
When?
they
What
gave it away for
happened?
free. They gave it away for free some time ago.
Oh, that's probably
years
why.
ago, I think.
Oh, well remembered, because I did not remember that. I will have to install this. This looks fun.
And I will say, Carrie Elways is excellent in that role. Just
I am not
so
surprised.
snarky. He's channeling everything he did in Robin Hood Men in Tights, and then yeah. I think you're going to enjoy it because it's very tongue in cheek. They know what they were going for with the writing. Yeah.
It's nice. I'm gonna have to install that. Okay, David, do you remember what your sorry, Jacob. Did we not? Sorry.
First computer RPG. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure.
That's fair.
Because I was never. Still, I'm sort of ambivalent towards computer RPGs, and back when I was younger, I didn't like them at all. The first one, the closest I think I can classify as an RPG would be Torchlight.
Yeah, hey, that counts.
Okay.
That completely counts.
Torchlight
counts.
is it's an action RPG, as is apparently the technical term. What it is a Diablo-like, a very good one, but a Diablo-like nonetheless.
Which was designed by people who worked on Diablo.
Yes, and it was very fun. Like, I'm not going to make the argument, oh, it wasn't good. It was. It was an exceptional game
Absolutely was.
that I spent a lot of hours into. I never fully understood it, but I enjoyed it. And I still like sort of Diablo-like games to this day. Never played any of the actual Diablo games because they don't really appeal to me aesthetically, but games like Grim Dawn, games like Torchlight 2 for that matter, as well as other type and so on, I like a lot. Actual CRPGs, I'm not sold on. The main problem I have is a problem I also semi-struggle with in tabletop role-playing games. To put it simply, most of the time they require to manage an entire party, and most importantly, to micromanage an entire party of goons. Now, the goons can be very interesting, but I am the sort of person who, for some reason, really tends to get hyper-fixated on making one character very good. And the moment you ask me to do the same with 5 characters, I just shut down and find myself incapable of doing it.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you there. Like, I much prefer an ARPG where it's just me, and that's all I got to worry about, and I can focus on making me the best me I can be. You know.
Yes, I'm fine with the tactical side of things. If you tell me to play XCOM and manage 5 people, sure I can, mid combat. If you tell me to min-max those 5 people, then and figure out builds and stats for them and buy weapons and armor and stuff. Yeah, it becomes too much for me.
So I have to ask: Have you played Wildermyth?
No.
You should.
Okay,
it's great.
You should.
Wildermyth.
Yes, Wildermyth is taking that sort of party stuff and making it the backseat to. Yeah, you have the tactical combat, of course. You have some party management, but every person has 2 weapon slots and an offhand slot. And then
that's the thing you've been playing on stream, here.
I have been. Yes, I've been
familiar in that. I haven't looked at it, but I have seen it.
It's amazing.
I will check it out then, because again, it's the one.
It is so good that even if you have issues with the analysis paralysis of trying to min-max people, you don't actually min-max anyone. You don't.
That's good.
Because what happens is every time they gain a level, you have between 3 to 4 skills to choose from, some of which are active, some are passive. But the idea is that you can only pick between those or reroll to try to get more. And
Understood.
you only pick the one. You're stuck with it. But the real meat of it is in the choices that you have to make. So you'll send your people on missions that come up, and you'll have to decide between how you want to proceed in these events. Do you want to go stealthy? Do you want to go charge in? Do you want to try to go another route and use fires to distract the enemy or give yourself a tactical advantage? You have all of those options, and then you have random events that can cause your characters to transform. So they might get a wolf arm and legs and head, or they might become crow-touched and get crow wings. Different things will transform your people, and then they get put into a legacy, so you can bring them into other games, and they'll keep those transformations. It's amazing. It's emergent storytelling. With
Does actually sound pretty fun.
It is.
It is definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's even co-op. David and I have been playing it in co-op on Discord. We've been streaming it when we do sometimes, and it's been nothing but fun.
Got it. I'll look into it then.
Play it. Yeah.
When I have the cash spare, I'll get it because it sounds tons of fun.
Oh yeah.
Besides that, like I mostly play RPG like games like Mass Effect, I would call it such, with RPG elements, but that typically can just leave a lot of the actual gameplay to because the big issue I have is a lot of times the like turn-based gameplay is really slow and fiddly because again you have to manage 5 people's worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this is why I like the Mass Effect feature where you can just say, okay, all of you over here, you worry about yourself. I'm going to set you on auto use your characters, and I'm just worrying about me.
Yep, you can do that, and that makes it a lot easier in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dragon
Agreed.
Age games gave you the same sort of options.
Oh, did
for the
they?
most part. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I haven't really played those.
If you weren't able to do that, I never would have played through any of the Mass Effect games, which I just love. But I like Jacob, I can't handle the 5 characters at once. It's just I'm going to worry about me too fiddly.
Yeah, like I tried to play.
With Wildermyth,
okay. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, just gonna say, with Wildermyth, you do have multiple characters to manage. You might have 5 or so in the party or more. With generally 5 on the battlefield at once maximum, but it's less fiddly than XCOM. Even to be
That's
fair,
good.
it's even less fiddly than XCOM. If that gives you any idea of how easy it is.
Also, there's only 3 classes to keep track of, so that reduces some micromanagement.
Yeah, and no like I tried playing the Pathfinder games, like Wrath of the Righteous.
Oh God, I couldn't do it.
Headache inducing.
On a similar track,
goes from infuriating to manageable on a computer, but it's still only manageable.
On a similar track, I tried the recent Tactics Ogre game. My brain melted. Absolutely. Tactics Ogre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's be friends. Whatever the remastered one that just came out recently. I got it on Switch, and it's like
Square Enix game.
Oh my God!
Yes, the original Square Enix Ogre battle was great. Tactics Ogre, it has its fans. Tactics Ogre Reborn, that's the one, David. Yeah, it has its fans. I have not picked it up. I played the original Tactics Ogre, and I didn't feel like I needed to pick up Reborn because I enjoyed the original a lot more than I did Tactics Ogre.
Tactics Ogre Reborn. What is this?
Yeah,
I see.
It's if Pathfinder hurt your brain, this is going to break your brain. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna cool off. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I wanted to like it. I kept hearing nothing but good things about it, so I tried it. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I cannot.
Yes.
I can't.
Now, for CRPGs that I enjoyed, if I'm willing to say, I obviously have to bring it up because someone will eventually the Fallout games, specifically Fallout 1 and 2. Why? Because they're really good.
And they've aged well.
They've aged exceptionally well. They have fiddly but understandable mechanics. They have the party management is minimal. Minimal to none, even. The writing, of course, is brilliant because it's Fallout. There's so
And they're
much
genre
variety.
defying.
They are definitely genre defining. It's just good stuff. It's a good series.
Yeah, it is a good
Wish
series.
Bethesda didn't get their hands on it, but alas.
What are you gonna do? Yeah, well, yeah. So, David, let's round this question out with you. What do you remember your first electronic RPG being?
I'm still a hard worker trying to figure that out, but it's
Well,
probably between two games that
That's
probably
fine.
already been
Whatever
noted.
whatever comes to mind first. That's fine.
All right, because this is not even on PC, but I
That's fine.
think probably during this time during the 90s, my cousin probably shouted at me multiple times to try out Jagged Alliance, but yeah, I never did that. So
Oh,
I should probably have done that in another timeline, but it didn't happen for me. So the first one I believe I played is tied either between. It has to be either Final Fantasy VII or actually Diablo on friggin' PlayStation 1. Yeah, there was an actual PlayStation 1 version of the game.
was there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And here's the weird thing as well with Diablo on the PlayStation 1. It was localized into Swedish. We had a freaking complete Swedish dub on the game. And it was weird. It was weird.
Why was it weird?
Well, we kids during the time, we were into more figuring out, what does this English word mean? What does that English word mean? And then it completely gets a friggin' fully translated game into Swedish, which was a little bit alien, I gotta say. Because, 2 years before, this was all out on the PC as well. And, I did see my friends playing that. And I finished Diablo on my own, though, if you're ever asking. Like Jacob noted before, RPGs have never been my cup of tea. I've always been into more, I guess, actiony games, shooty games, or whatever. Medal of Honor doing the 90s, late 2000s. So, but yeah, it's probably tied between Diablo and Final Fantasy VII, which I also never finished. I don't know. It's
That's
a hard.
fine. No, it's fine, dude.
That's what I can pull out from my mind.
No, that's fine. That's a fine answer. You know, I mean, if that's what you can remember, that's what you can remember.
But yeah, probably in another timeline, I did play Jagged Alliance 1 or 2. So, but yeah, that never happened.
I wonder what that David would be like. The one that played Jack and Alliance.
Probably a lot more like me, honestly. Which is a scary thought.
Depending on whether or not it clicked with him at the time. That's a big big factor, I think. Because Jagged Alliance, if you've not played the original 2 games, they're very fiddly. But they're also very, very good.
Yes.
Despite how fiddly and buggy that they were.
Yeah, there really isn't another game series like them, really. They're very...
Let's free be good. Let's free be good.
I know, we're all hoping the new one's good because because after 2, the legacy of the series kind of went kaput for a not it just went in the crapper for a while. And so we're all hoping the new one is good. But I don't know if you guys have seen the dev diaries of the new one, but it looks promising. I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much, but it looks like they at least know why people like the originals, Oh yeah, I don't know anyone. I know very few people, Jose, who have actually beat Jagged Alliance 2, because that game is, oh my god, that game is so hard.
The ending is very, very difficult. I did get through it.
Oh wow!
Without cheating.
Good job. Good job.
But yes, it was very difficult.
Oh my god. Oh, Thorsten also did it. Good. We have some very smart, good tacticians here. That is not me. I don't know how.
Don't ask me how long it took.
I was
It
about
takes a lot of reloads because I'll tell you, with experience, it takes a lot of reloads because there are some enemies that you'll turn a corner and instantly be able to spot you and get an interrupt on you. There are other times where you'll throw a grenade down to because you know where they are. You'll throw a grenade to stun them, and they'll still get the interrupt on you. So it's a really bad RNG in some places, especially toward that very end fight.
Jeez.
Yeah, getting through it with most of your people alive is just really difficult.
I love the relationship drama in the first 2 Jagged Alliance games. That was, in my opinion, the best part of those games. Like, this guy won't work with that.
They're pulling into the third. That's something they're pulling into the
yeah, exactly. That's why I'm excited, because they're getting that. They're very, very conscious about conscious. Am I using that right? Yeah, they're very conscious. Yeah, very conscious about getting that right, and which is that's one of the things that gives me hope about that one, about the new one. So yeah, really excited about the third. So to kind of shoot off that last question, this one might be a little tougher, and I'll start. If you met someone today who has never played an RPG before, what would you recommend? Which game would you recommend as their introductory RPG?
Oh God!
Just take a second, because I have an answer. Because I have an answer.
Apologies.
That's fine, because I have an answer. I think a really good introductory RPG for just about anyone is probably Torchlight 2. It's easy to get. It's easy to get into. The controls are very simple. It's not too fiddly. It's got a pet that helps you manage your inventory, which very few other games have. So inventory management is actually one of the easy. I think that game is one of the easier, because how many RPGs have been broken for you by bad inventory management? My God.
Do you want the short list or the full list?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'll tell you. I can tell you, Travis built that in there because he put it into the Fate games that he.
Exactly, and
that's where he got it from.
Exactly, and the Torchlight 2, I think, is the best refinement of that formula that he started in the Fate games. Yeah. And so that's why I think if someone came to me today and went, I want to get into RPGs, Torchlight 2 would probably be because it's got good tutorials, very colorful graphics. It runs on anything. It
very
runs
accessible.
On very accessible. Lots of fun classes, good multiplayer and single player. That would be my pick for someone's first. And I'm not going to go in order here because I don't want to put pressure on anyone. But does anyone else have one they would recommend as their first RPG? If you don't, we can. Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I don't even have to think about it.
Okay.
Oh no. There we go.
Fallout 3, and here's why.
Okay.
That's
all right. Hang on.
Julie's coming out swinging.
Spicy.
So here's why.
This is spicy. I want to hear this. Good.
Because Fallout 3 has some of the best game decisions I've ever had to make, and two especially I want to bring up. And the first one that everybody remembers about is, if you've ever played it, it's easy to get into, and I could spend the whole game and did just wandering around the wilderness. But when you're faced with a decision at some point, is somebody says there are people who worship this bomb, and it's just like the thing in the Planet of the Apes. And the thing is, do you set the bomb off or not? And if you set the bomb off, instead of living in some little hovel in this cobbled together village, you get to live in the only remaining apartment building in the Fallout Washington, D.C. wasteland. And that moment when you actually see the nuclear bomb detonate in the distance was amazing. But what I found just to this day, I remember this, and this is why I love this game so much, and I'm sure there are other games out there with this decision, but it has the first time I've ever been hit with this no-win scenario decision, and that is the zombies in this game aren't like your shambling monsters. Like there are some, but most of them are just like people who are radiation burn victims. And when you first move into this apartment complex, there are people who are the radiation victims who want to get inside. And so at some point, you're faced with a decision. Do the older people who are the survivors, who are living comfortably in their apartment complex, do you keep out the, air quotes, non-feral zombies, or do you help them get in and live comfortably? No matter what you do, it has an in-game radio station, and that announcer will spend the rest of the game blasting you for either decision. If you help the zombies get in, they'll say, how can you help those zombies get into those poor old people who are just living high in the hog and buried in their little settlement? And if you don't help them, he'll say, how can you possibly let those poor radiation victims not get helped? And that decision is what just and then it floored me when I had to make the game. I thought it was fantastic.
But
Actually, I've got to add something.
Fallout 3, right?
That's in Fallout 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I've got to add something here. Fallout 3 was one of the first games I at least know of that put you into such a situation that you have to choose between two evil. And previous games hadn't this
Yeah.
at least not to this extent.
Oh my God, my mic went off, and I was talking to myself.
No, it did.
You did? You heard me?
Now-
Oh, okay. Because
Now, here's the other thing that can be mentioned, which is you don't even have to be forced into that choice. If you decide to not set off the bomb, then you don't have to make the choice between the two evils.
Yeah, right.
Is it not possible?
Yeah,
Because you don't-
cannot set off
Because
the bomb.
if you choose to not set off the bomb, then you never get into Tenpenny Tower, and you never have to make the choice in the first place because that decision tree is cut off. It's only enabled.
so
It's only enabled by setting off the bomb in the first place.
so wait, Julie, do you think because of these decisions you have to make, that's what makes it a good introductory RPG for someone who's never played RPGs before?
Yeah, because it's like when this book I've been writing, and is what makes these games is, I mean, there are better games that have better graphics and all the rest, but it's the first time I played a game where it kind of made me think about my decisions and what I want to do this.
Okay.
So that's why, I mean, it's like Fallout 4 was the same kind of thing, It's like when you get Fallout 4, you help all these people establish all these little camps, and then the military moves in and they recruit you, and they say, okay, just go downstairs and just go down off of our little dirigible and take advantage of all these people you've helped in the wasteland. And I said, not a chance in hell. And I put the game on God mode, and I went back and I killed everybody in the military. And I say that having been in the military myself, but it made me think, just like Fallout 4, just like Fallout 3. It made me the decision and the consequences of your actions. That's what really made it a great introductory to role-playing for me.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. See, I was thinking more of like onboarding and accessibility and tutorials and things like that.
Well, see, then you get into the situation where onboarding, and it's like first time I played Ultima Online, it was like there was no instructions whatsoever. It dumps you in the middle of Britannia and say, what do you want to do? And someone said, well, I don't know. What do you want to do?
Well, I was just thinking about Fallout 3. It takes you through the stages of childhood to kind of onboard you for the game.
It
It does
does.
have that as the tutorial. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I think that's a very effective tutorial. So I'm thinking, in that regard, it does well as well. Does well as well.
It also does well.
It also does well. Thank you. Does well as well. Yeah, I could talk. I talk good.
Plus, what also is a good reason to start those games for me is even to this date that the modding community is still active, and that is really what has kept both games alive.
Yeah, one of the ways I got it running on Windows is this mod called A Tale of Two Wastelands, which basically merges 3 and New Vegas into one large game. And it works great. Like eventually you start in 3 and then you take a train to New Vegas and you can go back and forth between the two.
I can also see Julie's pick working here, by the way.
Because
a lot of people have played FPS games, but they may not have played RPGs. So if they wanted to get into an FPS with RPG elements, Fallout 3 is a good way to bridge that
it is
gap between the two genres.
Because you have. Am I remembering correctly? Because I didn't play a lot of 3 because it gave me nightmares. But it's like you can play it as a shooter, but you also have the kind of turn-basedy. What's it called? VAT or whatever it's called. VATS. Yeah.
VATS,
so you can.
Which is you trigger the VATS command, and then it goes into a slowdown time where you can decide where to aim. You get percentages of your opportunity to hit that particular part. And then you can exit VATS mode once you've queued up whatever actions you wanted to take. And how much time you had in VATS and how many actions you could take also depended on your stats. So your build was important for that.
Right.
Fallout 4 was the first game I played where somebody actually convinced me to mod the game. But I never used VATS because it always felt like cheating.
Don't get me started on Fallout 4.
That's its own can of worms.
What's
that noise?
No, I liked VATS because it kind of kept it true to the original 2 Fallout games if you wanted to play it that way.
It was close to turn-based.
Yeah,
close,
exactly.
But not
exactly.
Not quite.
No, it wasn't exact, but I thought it did a good job of kind of bringing that kind of gameplay forward into a new era, but also making it more accessible. So the more I think about it, the more I could see that Fallout 3 would be a good introductory option to the genre, especially if you have a background in first-person shooters.
Plus, in my case, I knew somebody, and still do, who was really good at coding. And so there were parts of it I didn't like the outcome, so I called him up and I said, teach me how to change the outcome. And I did. There was a character that died. I said, I want this character to die. He said, okay, here's what we're going to do about it.
Nice. Okay. Does anyone else have a suggestion for best first/introductory RPG? We've heard mine. We've heard Julie's.
I'll throw one out there.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, we already talked about it. Wildermyth.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Think about it this
that
way. You have a story-based system. You have a small party. It's not like you're managing an army. You have fewer typically than 8 characters in your company, and every story can be self-contained, where the characters that you find and recruit are completely new to your world, or you can pull in legacy characters that you have played with through other campaigns, and you just treat it like an alternate universe where they're just getting pulled into another story. And because of the emergent gameplay of it, no 2 campaigns are going to play out the same way.
Right.
It's also accessible enough. It's also moddable, but it's also accessible enough that for its gameplay, you can play everything on easy. Storyteller mode is what they call it. So you're just playing through on easy, And the challenge is still there because you could send a team of only 1 or 2 people to go up against an army of enemies at that particular location. But it is very accessible and very approachable.
And that combat encounter may still work out.
Yes.
Those characters can get pretty strong in the end.
Yes.
And it's pretty damn entertaining to see them swiping out entire groups of enemies in a single strike.
Nice.
Yeah. I would say if you're going to play a tactical RPG and you are wanting to start a turn-based tactical RPG, XCOM may be too fiddly, but this strikes a great balance between story, getting you engrossed in your characters and watching them grow, watching them age. Sometimes they'll even live long enough to retire during the course of your campaign. They may have children who will join your company instead.
Oh, wow.
It has so much to offer. It really does.
That is a good pick. And a modern one, too.
And I may have one as well. I'm
Go
pretty
for it.
sure. I'm not
Go
sure.
for it.
Okay. So I have been playing on and off some of the Monster Hunter games, but those are definitely not for all people. So what would I say if they made a turn-based RPG out of that and made it like into a Pokemon-like, that you collect monsters and stuff? Because that's what they did with the Monster Hunter Stories games, which the first one was on the phone, I believe, and maybe as well as on the 3DS or something like that.
Oh, Monster
And then-
Hunter. Oh, these are turn-based? I didn't know that.
Yes, these are actually turn-based. And
Oh.
yeah, you collect monsters, and there's a very cool like genetic fusion subsystem as well. Yeah, it's not a super game. That's true, Jacob. I know. It's it has its flaws, absolutely. But they took everything, pretty much everything from the mainline games, and
We're
They-
discussing
oh, they-
different games, by the way, because
yeah.
to the people listening,
Oh, yeah. So, but yeah, they break down all the friggin' mechanics most of the mechanics you see in the base games when it comes to weapon crafting and armor crafting and builds and stuff. But you also have the genetic fusion system, so you can kind of like in Cerulean, where you can change the path of a monster. Well, I guess I should say character, but these are still animals. You don't have full control over them in battle, which is kind of interesting. So you still have to try to work with them. And you can also play it co-op, but I haven't tried it myself. So, but apparently that's just for some multiplayer-specific dungeons. So yeah, I don't have an experience with that. I haven't played it though for about a year, I see now, because this is another one of the games that have been crashing my computer. So yeah,
Oh,
I'll have to go back to this thing soon.
I'm sorry.
See, the thing to me is why Monster Hunter Stories is better than the rest of them in the series is because, and this is just me, is having played both, is Monster Hunter Stories is turn-based, which I kind of like, because when I played the other ones, the Monster Hunter, I felt like I was moving in slow motion when I did the combat, and I got bored to tears really, really fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
So-
tried some of the mainline Monster Hunter games, and I can't I can't click with them. But the turn-based one sounds like it might be a lot more approachable for me. So I will definitely put that on the wish list.
And it's on Switch.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Oh, well,
I think it came out on Switch before on PC, actually.
That's where I tried it. There's a demo, and you can play it on Switch. It was fun.
I will add it to my Switch list with Switch.
At least I don't know if the demo is still there. When it first came out, there was a demo.
I will try. I will add it to my Switch wish list. That is hard to say. Switch wish list. That is very difficult to say. Oh my god. Let's see. Is there a demo? Let me see. I don't know if there's a demo. All right. So I'm looking up whether there's a demo. Who haven't we heard from? I don't think we've heard from. Jacob or Thorsten?
I don't really have a choice.
That's fine. No, that's totally fine.
I would pick Torchlight to either, to be honest, because it offers a pretty good introduction to the whole genre, in my opinion at least, and it's pretty easy to get into.
Yeah, that's why it was my pick, because it is such an easy RPG to get into. And since we're almost at an hour, we should probably cut it here, and we can revisit this topic on another show if we want to. We could branch out into other, like we're talking about, tabletop RPGs. We could maybe have a show about ARPGs, since that came up, and that's probably my favorite type of RPG. But how does that sound to you guys if we wrap it up? Because it has been almost an hour.
I only have one thing I want to say. I like Torchlight. I like Torchlight 2 because it's like Diablo done a fun way.
It is a lot.
I mean,
Agreed.
Travis worked on Diablo before making the Fate ARPG series, and then Torchlight 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Diablo 4 coming out soon?
Next month. Yeah, it's almost here.
Delightful. The fact that I've heard so little about it concerns me.
It concerns me too, because they are doing all kinds of videos and blogs. I've already played in both betas, and I'm very excited about it. It's really fun.
I'm glad you think so. It is Blizzard, so I have a sneaky suspicion something dumb is going to happen.
I was worried about that too.
But if it doesn't, I'll take you.
I was worried about that too, but I love Diablo 3. I think they did a great job. Once they got rid of the cash shop and did their big 2.0 patch, especially on the Switch. I played so much Diablo 3 on the Switch. Oh my freaking God. That I got really excited for Diablo 4. And it comes out next month, and I'm very excited about it. I've played at least a dozen or so hours of it in the various betas so far, and really had a great time. It kind of reminds me of a mix of Diablo and Guild Wars, because it's got this open MMO style world with world events as you're running around and whatnot, like Guild Wars does. So it does remind me of a mix of Diablo and Guild Wars, which is a good thing, I think. That's going to, I think, do it for this episode, you guys. We'll definitely talk more about RPGs in the future. Next week on the show, we're welcoming a guest. We streamed their game a few weeks ago. Oh, God, Lodestar. I couldn't remember the name. Lodestar. I keep wanting to say Lone Star, like the guy in Spaceballs. But no, Load with a D, Star. We streamed it a couple weeks ago. We had great fun. So we're going to welcome the developer of that game onto the show next week to talk more about it. And tomorrow I have to do a shorter stream because I have an appointment in the morning. So we're going to try Bolt Gun. Going to take a break from our usual space game streams and do a little Warhammery shooty nonsense tomorrow. So hopefully it'll be fun. I'm excited about it. It's a first person retro boomer shooter set in the Warhammer 40K universe. I like all of those things. So I'm very excited to try it tomorrow. Yeah, I can't wait. So, folks, thank you so much for listening. We had a great chat today, very active chat today. Thank you so much, everyone in the chat, for hanging out with us. And thank you, as always, to our patrons who help literally keep on the lights around here. And finally, thank you to all of those of you who've gotten vaccinated already. If you haven't gotten vaccinated yet, please, for the love of whichever deity you might believe in, get vaccinated. You're doing yourself and everyone else around you a favor by taking care of yourself and taking care of those you care about by getting vaccinated. So please get vaccinated, and please do more Starflight. You know what? It is in the queue for, I do classic space games on Mondays, and it is in the queue, though it's going to be such a long game. I keep debating on whether I should do it, because it's like, unless you speed run it, it's like 100, 200 hours, that game. So that would be like a year, maybe. So I don't know. We'll think.
It's gonna be a bit.
It's a huge. Get yourself spaded, dude. Just like Bob Barker. Well, Bob Barker would always say that at the end of when he would do The Price is Right.
Spay and neuter your pet.
Yeah, please. He would also.
Your pet.
He would
End
also
of every episode.
Yeah, he would also say spay and neuter your pets because he was a huge animal activist. And,
right, got it. Like chat brought that up, and I was very confused.
No.
Well, it would help save the planet, honestly.
It would.
Is this like insulting us via
No.
very fancy way?
No. Keeping the animal population under control is a huge deal. So yeah, getting your pet spayed and neutered is a massive thing. So well done, Cold Fusion Trash Compactor. I love your name, by the way. Beholder, the Starflight version on Genesis is probably the best version of Starflight. So you did play the best version of Starflight. I'm going to be perfectly honest. But I played it on PC, which is where I first played it. But yeah, the Genesis version of Starflight is the superior one. If y'all want to emulate it, or if you have a Genesis lying around like I do, go play that one. But thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us today. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for some Bolt Gun. Have a great one, y'all. Take care.